Hello and welcome to the programme that transports you from the comfort of your own lounge to a motoring heaven. And within the sanctity of the Church of Four Wheels Good today, we find Steve Vokins, who's been living with the Mitsubishi Shogun. Richard Warren's motorsport meanderings bring him to Silverstone Rally Circuit, where Skoda recently launched their own rally series. And John Wright's been doing further fiddling and fixing in his studio garage in Inside Motors. But first, in the pulpit, we find Ginny Buckley, who's to be found cruising in one of the most striking cars of recent times. The Ford Puma, which was knocked before it was driven because it's based on the Fiesta, turned out to be a coupe with the performance and handling of a real sports car.
Do you fondly remember the Mark II Escort, the Capri, and of course the unforgettable Cosworth? They just don't make them like they used to, now do they? Well, Ford would tell you that actually they do. And it's called the Puma. At first glance, the Puma may seem to be far too pretty to be in the same category as those motoring legends. And whatever you think about the trendily labelled new age styling, you've got to agree that it's striking, it's dramatic, and it does without doubt deserve and always get a second look. But still, it's too pretty to be taken seriously, I hear you sneer. And horror of horrors, it shares its chassis with the Ford Fiesta. True car enthusiasts everywhere will of course rest their case at this point. But hang on just a minute before you dismiss the Puma as another Vauxhall Tigra. A sporty looking bit of fluff for the girls to drive. All talk and not a lot of action. If you're serious at all about your driving, ignore the Puma at your peril, because you'll be missing out on the kind of drive that will send a shiver down your spine and put a smile on your face. Ford's designers and engineers must have been having a great week when they settled down to design the Puma. This is one car that feels like it's been designed by people who love their cars and who want you to love the Puma as much as they obviously do. Everything about it has been put together with a lot of thought. The Puma's body may well look like a sculpted work of art, but Ford have actually remembered the interior as well, which is something of a rarity in the car world. OK, so the dashboard is straight out of the Ford Fiesta, but look at the nice little touches they've added to it. All this lovely shiny chrome, dials that glow green in the dark, the beautiful steel gear stick, and of course the cute little Puma badge just to finish it all off. But all of that is simply the icing on the cake. The Puma could be as ugly as the Lada Riva and it really wouldn't matter. Because once you put the key in the ignition and turn it on, that's when you realise that this is no tarted up Fiesta. The Puma is a bit like a selection box. It's packed with more treats than are really good for you. It has an all-new 1.7 litre engine, 16 valves, variable cam timing and class-leading torque. Who cares exactly what it does or how it does it? Just take my word for it, it all works together perfectly. The Fiesta's old 5-speed gearbox has undergone a radical makeover and been shortened, and it just begs to be flicked through those close-ratioed gears. The throttle needs just the lightest of touches to send that rev counter soaring and the Puma accelerating like, well, a bit like a Puma. 0 to 60 in 8 seconds and a top speed of 130 miles per hour. Ford have paid attention to the suspension, making it tougher, not too firm, but just enough. Enough to ensure superb, precise handling. And the kind of agility at corners that you'd expect from something with a much higher price tag than its £14,500. Now, if you're not drooling by now, boys, and you still have a few doubts about the Puma's pedigree, then let me tell you this. The chassis, well, it's been developed by Ford's clever engineers in the Special Vehicle Engineering team, chaps who really like their cars. The chaps responsible for the Escort Cosworth. I rest my case. Are any of you eating your word yet? But the real beauty of the Puma is that it has all of that and more. Its power steering makes parking a breeze. The nippy responses mean it's a joy to drive around busy towns. And out on the motorway, it has all the power you need and then some. And it still feels as solid as a rock. But wait, because there's still more. The Puma may be packed with fun, but it has a sensible side too. It's insurance group 12, not bad for a car in this class, and it should do around 40 to the gallon, which is quite respectable. And you know, you can almost convince yourself that it's actually a family car, as long as your kids don't grow up to be too tall. And just take a look at this, because it does without a doubt have an absolutely huge boot for a car in this class, and it even has a split folding rear seat. And because the Puma shares so much with the Fiesta, you won't be stung for huge servicing bills and specialist parts. And because the Puma's only being sold through a limited number of Ford dealers in limited numbers, that means it should hold its value rather well. So now I've told you how wonderful it all is, it's time for me to say what I don't like, to criticise and to complain, that thing that women do rather well. And this should take me, about 5 seconds tops. I think the wheel arches are too high, it makes the car look a bit jacked up. The back window may look fantastic, but it's like peering through a letterbox. And the hinge on the fuel flap is a bit cheap and it looks like it might snap off easily. And that's it. If only all our complaints were that short, how easy life would be. But the Puma is one of those rare cars that makes you realise that driving isn't just about getting from A to B. In the right car, driving is all about having pleasure. The Puma makes you want to get out and go for a spin in it instead of sitting there in front of the TV. Of course, the downside to all this is that your petrol bills will definitely shoot up if you become the owner of a Puma. And that's because you'll find yourself taking the longest route home that you possibly can.
The brilliant Puma by Ford. You've really got to drive it to understand why it's rated so highly. There are many manufacturers who launch one-make rally series, but one of the cheapest to enter is the Skoda Championship. Richard Warren took a trip down to Silverstone's Rally School to find out more about what's involved if you want to take part in a sport with an ever-growing popularity.
For the last 25 years, there's one car in particular that has run its class time and time again on the RAC Rally. That car, amazing enough, is a Skoda.
It's been going for 13 years. This hopefully will be our biggest year. Last year we had 26 registrations. We've got 20 so far, with 4 weeks to go before the first round in Bournemouth. So we're optimistic it'll be the biggest year.
What is the secret to the success then?
One word: cost. It's now the biggest low-cost series in the UK. Peugeot used to hold that honour, but the Peugeot series ended at the end of last year. Skoda has taken over the role of that, and we offer value for money rallying in competitive low-cost Skoda Felicias.
Okay, this is the start of the Silverstone Rally School stage. the end of the stage. Oh, a bit out of breath there. I haven't done this for a while.
Well, one of the regulars in this year's Skoda Trophy is Martin Newcombe. Martin, you've actually been doing the championship now for about 2 years, so why are you doing it again?
Basically because I really do enjoy the competition that we have in the Skoda Trophy. The cars are all pretty much the same, and it's quite a low-cost championship as well, and I really enjoy it, basically. Can't wait to have another year.
Well, people are going on about low costs all the time. Exactly how much does it cost you to do it this year, or will it cost you to do it this year?
Well, we tend to not talk too much about budgets, but obviously when we're looking for sponsorship deals to run the year, it generally costs about £1,500 per event, and there's 8 events in the year, so you know we've got to find a lot of money to start the year off.
And obviously if you're lucky enough to actually win the championship outright, it's actually the key to future success, isn't it?
Well, yes, definitely. It's you obviously get recognition of Skoda and off other teams as well. The prize is an actual drive in the British Championship for the following year, which gets loads of TV coverage, and it's definitely an exciting prospect for a good rallying career.
And obviously one of the nicest things about this, that a driver who's just beginning in rallying can actually join the championship now, and instead of having to do other events to get their licences upgraded, they can actually go right to the end of the championship without having to get another event in.
That's right. The format is such that we start with 3 National B events, then move on to National A in the middle of the season, and then we graduate to an international licence by mid-season, which means that by the RSC Rally in November they have an international licence if they finished all 5 rallies beforehand.
And what you said before, obviously, about the secret of the cost, exactly how much money are you looking at to actually do the championship?
A car will cost between £7,000 and £9,000 to buy second-hand in homologation form, £350 to register for the series. On top of that, you've got entry fees of about £250, £300 per event, petrol, hotels, recce expenses, mechanics expenses, and bits and pieces for the car. So we're looking at a budget of between 15 and 20,000 to be competitive for the year.
And the other interesting thing, I noticed quite a lot of people here today actually use their cars on the road. They don't just keep them in the garage and just use them for rallies.
That's the beauty of it. You know, it's a road car, it's taxed, it's legal, it's got an MOT certificate. Anybody can register for the series as long as they're over 17 years old.
And obviously you've got quite a few young drivers as well doing it this year.
That's right. We've got 4 novices who've never ever been in a rally car before, including the Lady Quest girl, and we've got 9 newcomers to the series who've rallied before but not with Skoda Trophy.
So you mentioned the Lady Quest. What exactly is Lady Quest?
Lady Quest is a championship set up by the Sun newspaper, Silverstone Rally School and Skoda UK, open to budding rally drivers, female rally drivers, who attend 12 finals here at Silverstone over a 3-month period. The top 10 come here for a final. The winner receives a work-supported drive in Skoda Trophy.
There still isn't nearly enough women in the sport, and it's still a very male-dominated sport. However, driving has always appealed to me. Even when I was a child, if we went to an arcade, I would always head for the racing games in the arcade and things like that. Tried go-karting when I was a kid and everything else. It's just something that's always appealed to me.
So what advice would you give aspiring lady rally drivers who might be watching?
Just get out there, don't be frightened to try it, because it's a lot of fun and you really can get a long way in it. There's people out there that can help you, and like Skoda and the Silverstone Rally School here has really helped me this year with this opportunity. It's just fantastic.
Well, that was the Skoda Trophy, and that's the Rally Championship for this year. And as you can see, cheap motorsport is available to you. It can be Skoda, and it can be surprising.
If you're interested in getting involved with relatively affordable rallying, then don't hesitate getting in touch with the manufacturers who run one-make championships. It's the cheapest way in. That's it for part 1. Join us after the break when we'll be finding out how Steve Vokins got on with the Mitsubishi Shogun he's been living with, and John Wright will be at it again with his toolkit in Inside Motors. See you then. Hello and welcome back to Four Wheels Good, the motoring magazine which mentions most makes and models. One model that Steve Vokins has been spending much of his time with in his Living With series is the Mitsubishi Shogun. Even though there's a massive array of 4x4s on the market, this one may be the car that he'd feel most happy about driving round the world in.
The job of a road test reporter is to determine, is a car a load of, or is it cool? This is the new Mitsubishi Shogun, a car that's been around in various forms since 1983. As you see, it's got a very glitzy, glamorous exterior, but it does have a serious pedigree as a real off-roader. So the question is it farmer's friend or housewife's hack? In this, the latest version of the Shogun, it retains all of its world-class off-roading ability, but I must say the tarty body kit and paint job make it a bit less believable. This latest facelift is really rather a minor affair, featuring twin airbags, new frontal treatment, new roof deflector, side steps and integrated blister wheel arches. In the three-door version especially, this makes the car look like a cross between a VW Golf on steroids and a Tonka toy. For a car with such a large exterior, the interior is remarkably cramped. You can get 4 adults in, but as for luggage, I've seen bigger pockets. If you're one of the 4 people travelling in the car, you are however quite well catered for. The seats are very comfortable, there's air conditioning, there's a good stereo and a variety of little gadgets to keep you happy. They are however really funnily placed. The ergonomics in this cabin are a complete nightmare. It takes you ages to find even simple things like the heated rear window switch, and when I pulled up at the petrol station for the first time to try and fill up, I was honestly looking for well over a minute just to try and find the petrol flap. It's not logical at all. However, once you've got to live with the car and you've got over these initial problems, it is a nice car to drive, and I wouldn't want to knock it just because of its quirky eccentricities. The Shogun's been around now since 1983 in various guises. And it's been around long enough now and been successful enough to worry Land Rover. It sells in a staggering 158 different countries and has sold over 2 million units. So it's a serious car. And obviously if it's selling in those sort of countries, it must be a pretty serious off-roader. The engine is really lusty and smooth, a beautiful V6 3 litre. And it's very chunky as a car, and it does seem as if it would go anywhere. It's got a compass, it's got altimeters, all sorts of things. It really is equipped to go across the world. But with a paint job like this and some of the plastic body kit, I don't know I'd really want to risk it.
And Steve will be living with more cars soon. Finally on today's show, it's time to find out what's happening in the life of Mr. Autofixit and his garage studio. That's right, it's John Wright with Inside Motors.
Welcome back to Inside Motors. If you can remember, in the last show we were stripping down that 948 midget engine and we had the slight problem with the crankshaft being on its last grind. Now overnight I stripped down the 1100 motor and this is what we found. Come and have a look. These are the main bearing caps where the crankshaft fits, and what we found was this. As you can see, the bearing surfaces look really grey, and that's caused by oil starvation. Now the problem is with the 1100 it's quite a long stroke crank, and when somebody over revs it, gets the revs really up high above 7,000 RPM, the oil is drawn away from the main bearing caps and into the big ends, and that's what causes that problem. If we started the engine up as it is, it'd run like a right bag of nails with a good bottom end rumble. However, the crankshaft from this engine is probably a better option for regrinding than the one from the 948. So if the man from the machine shop says no with the 948, this is the engine we'll be rebuilding. This is the bearing from the 1100, and this is the bearing from the 948. And as you can see, that one's a dull and grey finish on it, which means it's been oil starved and over revved. And this one from the 948, yes, it's been used, but it's a nice clean white metal surface, which means it hasn't been abused. However, the 1100 crankshaft has only had one regrind, which means it's a viable option for a rebuild. And it's looking like that if the man from the machine shop says no, that we can't rebuild this 948. We're just going to have to wait for his opinion. Let's go and find out. Well, we're here at this machine shop in Bradford to see if they can do anything for us. Come on, let's stick it in and get it measured. Right, Dave, this is the block, the head and the crankshaft that we've got for you. What do you think of this block?
Well, it looks like it could do with a rebar. The cam bushes are fairly badly worn, so we could do with replacing them. Let's have a look at the block face. The block face doesn't look too bad. If you wanted surface grinding, that's a possibility, but you'd be losing your identification tab.
Yeah, well, one of the things that we quite like to do is keep the identification tab on, so if it's within tolerance, we'll leave it like that. Because it's going into a classic, you see.
Yeah, that's fine, is that? So, that's covered the block, I think. Can move on to the cylinder head. Let's have a look at the other side again. Well, on there, the cylinder head face could definitely do with a surface grind.
Well, there's no problem there because we want to increase the compression ratio a little bit anyway, so taking it down shouldn't be a problem.
No problems at all. I don't know what to do about the valve guides and the seats. If you want the valve guides checking and the seats recutting.
John will be back in his garage next week. Also, in next week's show, Ian Royal will be spending the day with some off-roaders who are driving hard to raise money to protect endangered rhinos in Kenya. And Ginny Buckley will be test driving the classic Saab 9000's replacement, the 95. See you then.